Okay, Raj and Rajat, we are back here in the IIT Madras campus after maybe 5-6 years, right?
Yeah.
There are a lot of memories coming back. This is a very nostalgic place for all of us. Maybe we can talk a little bit about our experience of studying here quickly, our experience of going to the US for PhD, and then why we came back. Maybe you can quickly introduce, and then I'll also introduce.
Yeah, my name is Raj Dandekar. I graduated from IIT Madras in 2017 with a BTech in mechanical engineering, and then I went to MIT to pursue my PhD. In 2022, after finishing my PhD, I came back to India along with Rajat and Sreedath to work on our dream company, Vizuara Technologies. My name is Rajat Dandekar. I graduated from the Department of Engineering Design in the year of 2018. I still remember the first time when I came to the campus. I was very nervous, but then slowly I started to like the campus. I started to like the fraternity, the people, the professors, and I got very used to the campus life. And now coming back to the campus after 5 years, it feels very nostalgic. From the smell itself, my mind is taking me to so many different memories. And it feels nice to come back after 5 years.
And my name is Sreedath Panat. I graduated from here in 2017 from mechanical engineering. Went to the US for doing PhD at MIT. And all of us came back almost 1.5 years ago for pursuing our dream. I think maybe it's a good time to talk about the experiences in the US really quickly. And why we decided to come back. And it's a bit unconventional decision. People usually stay in the US when they go there. But we decided to come back. It was not an easy decision, of course. It took a lot of time. But maybe we can just discuss why we took that bold step. Maybe you can start, Raj.
Yeah, definitely it was not easy at all. I remember at one point, I was very miserable in my lab at MIT and I really wanted to quit and just come back. But somehow I persevered with my PhD. But after my second year, really it became clear that I don't want to become a professor and stay in academia. And maybe that was the time when the seeds of having our own startup really formed in the mind. But looking back right now, it's amazing that how so many things actually came together. Like we all graduated roughly around the same time, which is impossible because PhDs are very variable. Sometimes they go on for 7 to 8 years. So now when I think back, I think many things came together. So luck played really major role towards the end of our PhD experiences. Yeah, Rajat, what do you think?
People have asked me this same question so many times that why did I choose to come back to India after doing my PhD? So if I recall my PhD life, I was very contented in the initial years and I was very happy with the kind of research I was doing. In the middle phase of my PhD, it was the time when pandemic struck, and this was right in the middle of 2020, I think. And then the three of us used to discuss every single day what are the scope after the pandemic is over. And then we used to discuss so many different ideas. And as Raj said, that's when the seed of the company were born. And I remember the time we used to spend in Boston. We used to have so many discussions, long walks near the river. And those were some of my best times in the US, I remember. And that's when we decided that, okay, this is it. This is the team that we want to stick with for the rest of our lives. And the decision was made then and there itself. So it was not at all a tough decision for me. It was very clear in my mind that India is the country where we have to come back. We are familiar with the people. We are familiar with the education system. And this seems like the best place to start. So then we decided first to focus on our PhD. Build the startup on the side, of course, but first complete the PhD and then come back to India and then focus on the mission full time. Sreedath, you can speak about your reasons.
Yeah, very similar experience. Of course, when we go to the US, the day one when we land in the US, we are not imagining we are coming back, right? So usually, statistically, and also even if you don't know what exactly are you going to do after PhD, you pretty much know that most likely you will be in the US. So after 3.5 years is when we really started thinking about this seriously, maybe a bit more later of PhD. So this was almost 2.5 years from now. And it was not like we did not have options. We had so many lucrative options in the US. So personally for me in the lab, I had an amazing team, a great professor. We worked on so many groundbreaking projects in, renewable energy, photovoltaics, phase separation of nanoscale emulsions, CO2 capture, and agricultural sprays. We even pitched some of these ideas in some of the biggest business pitch competitions in the world and won awards worth $600,000, etc. So it was really, really, there were so many options. And also, as we were closer to graduate, we got messages from recruiters. All of us had multi-crore job offers lined up, and also messages from recruiters. So it was, there was an abundance of options as we were nearing the end of the PhD. But still we were feeling like, okay, we know where this heads, right? You join a company, you make some money, you start a family, maybe you buy a house, you buy a car. The life is very predictable. And but we knew that we could do something much bigger and more meaningful than that. And but taking a decision to come back to India from the US is very difficult. Usually people do that. Maybe if you get rejected by the H1B lottery, maybe it's easy to make the decision because you're forced. But this was more like, we had options and we wanted to make this decision. And in our thought process, personally for me, I really felt like India is a great place to be. In the next maybe 20-30 years, the startup scene is booming. So there is a great business potential. We can start amazing companies here to solve problems which are probably already solved in the US. We don't know, but maybe there are many more opportunities to solve things here, create jobs. Personally for us, we want to create like 50,000 or more jobs in the next 30 years. We often talk about this dream. And in that process, build a good organization and make all these things happen here. So we came here truly recognizing that among all the options that we had, this is actually the best option. It's not like this is, people may feel like, oh yeah, you should probably work 2-3 years in the US and then come back. But what are the odds of that? People may work there, but then you find a good team in your company. And it's likely that whatever ideas and dreams you had of building something here will already vanish. So that's how it was. If you want to add anything about your personal thoughts.
Yeah, I just want to share one story. So there is a very famous tea stall in Insta called the Ramu tea stall. We frequented that a lot at nights, and at that time, when I was in 3rd or 4th year of Insta, I used to think that I want to get jobs at companies like Google, Microsoft, Facebook, Amazon. I thought it's my dream to go there. But at the end of our PhDs, when we actually got job offers at these companies, it seemed not very consequential to go that route. Now when I look back, I think that the decision which we took was also coming from a fundamental desire to do something for your own and create something of your own instead of contributing to someone else's vision. So 6 years later, we are here at IIT Madras, and when we go to that same Ramu tea stall again, we see that person who is making the tea, right? And he has entire ownership of his product. He makes the product, gives it to the customer, sees the happiness on their face. If they are sad, he improves, iterates and gets better. That's exactly what we are doing in our startup. So now I appreciate his life much more. Instead of, let's say, taking a job in a big company but working in a small department, being a cog in a wheel, contributing to someone else's vision and not even seeing the results of what you're doing. Instead of that, this gives us so much satisfaction because we have full ownership of the product. We can see whether customers are liking it or not. We can improve based on the feedback which they give. It's really wonderful to create something of your own. So students who are thinking that coming back to India is, which means that you have failed in the US, or it's good to stay in the US, but why should I come back to India? Please consider that India is really, really changing. Everything is changing. Sreedath and Rajat mentioned the startup economy is completely booming, and it's really the best time to be here. And we have been here now 2 years after coming back, and I can very confidently say that I feel we have taken the right decision.
Yeah, I think this is a very special moment for all of us, because life has come a full circle at this moment. We are sitting in the campus right now of IIT Madras, and we were in the exact same spot, I guess, 5 years ago. So that's what makes this moment so much more special. And when we reflect back 5 years ago, we would not have imagined that at this point of time in 2024, all of us would be sitting together, and we would have accomplished so much in the last 2 years after coming back to India. So this feels like a very special moment.
So I have an interesting thought. Maybe we can discuss this. What if our startup fails? Will you guys regret coming back? Because you guys could have made crores of rupees. Maybe you would have become a professor if you went ahead the route of publishing a lot, because you were publishing papers like it's like a hobby. So, okay, we are working on the startup. We are very enthusiastic. We are keeping things optimistic. What if it fails? Will you regret your decision?
So personally, no, I will not regret my decision, because the last 2 years I have had some of the best moments of my life ever. Of course, it has been a roller coaster of a journey. There have been a lot of ups and downs, and every single day is a challenge. But when you do it with the right people and the right team, it feels very satisfying. And I think in an alternate life, I would have become a professor. I don't know how that life would have been, but at least in this life, I'm very happy right now. Let's say the startup fails, then we'll start over. We'll start again, because I believe in the team. And so yeah, so I won't say there will be any regrets. And the direction where we are headed, I think we are advancing every single day, and we are bringing meaning to a lot of lives. We are connected with so many students over the last 2-3 years, and that itself brings a lot of satisfaction.
Yeah, I also think in a similar manner, actually. Even if, let's say, the startup fails, I value the team much more. So ideas can come and go, and implementations can work or fail, but if the foundation of the team is strong, you can always start something new. And now that the startup bug has bitten me, I don't think I'll ever go back to working in a company ever again. So even if it fails, instead of looking back, I would probably discuss or brainstorm with you guys about the next thing which we can do. Because clearly, if it fails, we have probably learned something new which no one else has. So I'll make sure that failures have some learnings, and then we can use those to start our next big thing. And maybe the second one also fails, but the fourth or fifth one can potentially succeed. So now it's not even in my mind that we have made the wrong decision. So the decision is already right, because last 2 years, as Rajat said, I already think we have succeeded. Now anything is a bonus. Yeah, what are your thoughts, Sreedath?
I also don't think I will regret, because the idea we are pursuing may become irrelevant. Who knows, right? But I don't think as a team we will fail. I think we will make something happen. And also about happiness, I feel like I'm truly happy these days. And also the kind of level of curiosity that I had as a child. In general, we are curious about how the world works and a lot of things, right? And I feel like I was not curious enough probably for the last, not counting the 2 years where we were running the startup, but maybe for 8 or 10 years before that, I don't think I was extremely curious about things. A lot of things that was happening around in the world, I was not bothered about it, because anyway, I did not plan to change the world or anything. So I was like, okay, let things happen. But now I think I'm generally, just to continue I think I have become truly curious about things in general. From conversations, I am trying to use whatever I listen to from conversations in my business. or to take actual decisions, right? When people talk about something, if there is something that I can actually use it for the day-to-day activities of running our startup. So in general, I think this increased level of curiosity has also made me personally more happy. So I think my mind is actually truly happy. Firstly, there is no one to answer to. There is no boss or anyone. So we are doing what we feel like doing. That is completely liberating. That feel probably I've never had. In school, we were answerable to teachers. In college, we were answerable to maybe these professors who are giving us assignments or projects or teaching assistants, whoever. In PhD, of course, there is PhD advisor. Of course, being answerable teaches you the sense of responsibility. But after a certain age, you feel like if once you are a responsible enough person who wants to do things, I personally don't feel like I want to answer to people. I just want to do things. So in that sense also, it's been incredibly liberating. So my personal experience is that because of that, even if things may not, let's say things won't work out financially, let's say the startup is just staying as a small baby forever, it is probably, it may not happen. First of all, I'm thinking of it as a very low likelihood event, but even if it may happen, I think the journey would have been very happy journey. So that's how I am thinking about it. I have another thought. So is there anything that, you are not probably regretting like that? You don't have any macro regrets, or do you have micro regrets? Like when you see your friends who graduated from Purdue or MIT doing, making it big, them buying houses or cars, or what else? Maybe they run a startup in the US. They raised a lot of money, $3 million, $5 million, something like that. Or you see that a lot of Indians, a lot of juniors are going to the US. Nobody is staying here, US or UK or wherever. Like they're going in large numbers. Is there something that you feel, are there aspects about life outside India that you miss, or things that you are jealous of for those people who are outside? I'll tell one example where I sometimes feel that. I think it's mostly about the public infrastructure. I think like going for hikes and to beautiful, Airbnb cabins. I think that experience I have not had. I'm sure there are such locations in India, but probably it was more frequent in the US. So that aspect I miss. But within the most of the private part of the life, like life inside the home, life within the family, and life within private circles, I absolutely love the life here. I did not like the private life within the US as much. I like the public life a bit more, probably. So that's one part where I feel like I hope things will improve, and maybe I'll just get okay with that. But that's one part where I feel some micro, not regret. What shall I say? I just want to give it that part I feel like is better there than here, so that I'm not sounding completely biased that everything is amazing here, right? What about you guys?
So that is a great question actually. I do have some micro regrets, and they are not particularly related to the life outside India, but more with respect to the work-life balance. So I believe that there is a certain amount of imbalance when it comes to friendships in my life right now. I have been not able to devote a lot of time to my friends from school, college, IIT, and friends, PhD friends. That is one area where I feel that there has been a little bit of imbalance, especially since we have been working on building this startup and making sure that it flourishes. So it is consuming a lot of time, and that is one area which bothers me sometimes. Of course, I think after some years we'll reach a state where work-life balance will improve, but right now that is one micro regret which keeps on bothering me somewhere at the back of my mind, that am I devoting time to my friends, which I am probably not right now. So that is one thing. Life outside India is something I'm not majorly concerned right now, because initially it was tough getting used to Indian lifestyle, especially living in the US for 4-5 years. But later I got used to it, and now I'm perfectly okay with the things over here. But yeah, work-life balance is something which I'll definitely need to work upon in the coming years.
Yeah, I feel that I'm constantly jealous. Like every day there is someone or the other who puts something on LinkedIn which makes me jealous. I feel there is someone who has raised money, or there is someone who has advanced a new position in their job, or I don't think that will ever stop for me. I think when I see any colleague doing well anywhere, it makes me jealous. So that feeling was there in the US, and that feeling is still there here. But what in terms of micro regrets, right? One thing which I've seen, especially in my friends who are doing jobs, they can switch off after 5 p.m. or 6 p.m. and they don't have to worry about something coming to a complete halt if they don't come back to work again. Like, I miss that luxury a bit, because it always feels like somewhere or the other there is a fire which you have to put out, and that can happen anytime. So you can never switch off. I feel I'm constantly in an on mode. Even when you go for travel, you're constantly thinking of something. How is the company doing? You cannot take a 2-day break because you have to manage several teams. That part of it I miss. There used to be some segments in my PhD life where I could just switch off and just completely relax for a week. That never happens in a startup. That might be one regret I have, but now that's not even a regret. That has become a way of life. So when I look at people who are taking long breaks or they can switch off, I do feel that what if I could have also done that. So some of those little things are there, and jealousy is constantly there. More jealousy is there for people who raise money, I feel, or whose startup is doing well, than people who are rising up in their corporate ladder. I feel more jealous for people who have created things out of nothing, because I feel that that is something I also want to do. So if they are further along that step, I first become jealous, then I try to learn from them, then I try to implement it. That's the usual cycle. But this will never stop, I think. The day I stop being jealous, I think I'll become I feel more what can I say, not on my toes. Not really serious. If I'm not jealous, I feel that I'm not serious about what I'm doing. So regrets are like a bell-shaped curve for me. It comes and then goes every day. But yeah, happiness has definitely increased a lot since coming back to India.
Okay, I think I wanted to discuss something along similar lines. So let's say there is a student who is listening to this conversation about us coming back. Should they feel comforted to know that, oh, okay, I am not planning to go abroad. I am planning to stay in India. So glad to know that these guys also think about, it's better to be in India than outside. So do you think somebody should find comfort in the fact that, oh, maybe India is a good place to be? Or do you think it's still worth it for somebody to explore going abroad and just live a life there? Like, what do you think personally that students take should be? I'll just start maybe from my perspective. I think I'm sure that when people listen to this conversation, some students will feel comfort in knowing that being in India is not a bad decision. At least from, okay, that's what we did. Maybe if people feel the same way, maybe they will also get comfort in knowing that there are others who think like being in India is a better choice than being outside India. But still, I feel like it's a good idea to go abroad for people who want to be, let's say, an employee in a company, if that is a kind of career that someone is envisioning for themselves. And also, if people are okay with staying away from friends and family in India for extended duration of time, I think it's a good idea to go abroad, because you will earn well, life outside, the public life infrastructure is very good, all of that. So I think that part is good. But if somebody wants to do something themselves, I think as an owner, as an entrepreneur, I feel like there are a lot of advantages of trying to do that in India, which is what we are trying to do, right? We had a conundrum of whether we should start something in the US or start something in India. If we were starting in the US, we had to raise money immediately to kind of sustain the team, because even if there are 2 employees, we have to pay them large amount of money. And even for our own personal expenses, it's very difficult unless we raise money. And if we raise money immediately before even achieving a product market fit for whatever idea we are working on, it'll be too early. So we thought our vision, everything will get diluted. So all in all, the freedom, like India basically allows you to stand here, right? Nobody's asking you to go outside after like 3 years. But in the US, we had friends who were like amazing guys, who are some of the best minds that we have ever seen. They got H-1B visa denied 3 times, and they are back in India. So if you are to build something, and if you want to be a bit more relaxed about, you'll be not thrown out or something like that. I don't know how often it happens, but at least at that part of thought is not occurring. So we can peacefully build a company here, I think. I know many people probably disagree that India is not the best place to start. I had heard that opinion a lot, but so far I'm okay with the way things are going. What do you guys think generally about how students should perceive going abroad and doing things abroad versus India?
Yeah, I think I'll try to answer this question with the help of an analogy. So let's say you have to go from one island to another island, and how I imagined the IIT journey was that there was a boat and there were a lot of other students on the boat, and all the students knew that they had to go from island A to island B. So it was a difficult journey, but you had a lot of passengers on the way. What PhD in the US taught me was that, first of all, you have to select the islands on which you want to go. You have to select the boat, and you have to navigate the boat also yourself. So it teaches you a lot of things, especially living in a country which is away from your homeland, working in a multi-diverse group, a multicultural group, finding the right problem statement and then devising a solution to solve that problem. So I think living in the US definitely made me more independent. It gave me the confidence of being okay with the uncertainties of life, which had not happened before. Life in a college is very certain. You have to get through the courses and you have to get grades. That's it. But in the PhD, there are moments when there are phases of uncertainties. And navigating these uncertainties, no one teaches you in college before. And this is one of the best things which I learned. And it applies in the startup also, because in a way, startup is similar to a PhD life, because you have to decide the problem. You have to find ways to tackle it. You're trying to solve a problem which people have not tackled before. And so in a way, I learned to deal with the uncertainties of a startup because of going to the US and doing a PhD. So that is an experience which is extremely invaluable. And so in that way, I would encourage everyone to get an experience away from India in whatever capacity, whether it's an internship or a 6-month internship, 2-month internship, whatever. But just go out there and try to interact with people over there, try to get a sense of the facilities, the advancement in the area, how people think, how differently you think, and then make a decision for yourself. So in the end, it's a very personal decision. For me, I feel very connected to India. So it was never a big decision point for me coming back to India. But again, it depends on your own personal choices. But I would encourage everyone to have an open mindset. And just because you're listening to our conversation, don't make up a mind, because our journeys are very different from your journey. So try to make an independent decision. And in the end, I think because of going to the US, it helped me shape my personality. Another way it helped me is how to communicate to people, how to communicate your ideas. This is something which I think Indian education system lacks a lot. In the US, people focus a lot on communication and oral skills, which I learned during my PhD. You have to defend your PhD in the end, which is like a 2-hour process. And in the end, they decide whether you're worthy of a PhD or not. So this is something which I'm very thankful to the US for. So that is another thing which you learn when you go abroad. So, yeah. Raj, do you want to add anything?
Yeah. So my thoughts on this are also aligned with what Rajat and Sreedath were saying. So what I think is that people who are watching this video, right, they should not take solace in the fact that if, let's say, they are sitting in India and this video, let's say, supports that decision, that does not mean that they have necessarily taken the right decision. The reason is because for us to get to this point, many things have had to align together. First of all, we had to find each other. Our aims had to be aligned. We needed to graduate at roughly the similar time from our PhDs. Then our interests were also aligned in the education sector. So this video is being made after 6 to 7 years. If you think about it, after 2017, so 2000 days. After 2000 days of experimentation, trial, error, so many conversations, our each individual personal experiences, after that, this video is being made. So what you watch in this 20 to 30 minutes, there is 2000 days, maybe 15,000 hours of personal experiences, our individual journeys behind this. So, and your journey might be very different. For example, I had a friend who actually liked working for managers because that gave him freedom after 5 p.m. So he could do whatever he wanted after work. So he liked working in a company under a boss. So it might not be bad. It's just that for us, this worked out really well. So the main takeaway from this video, if someone is watching, in my opinion, is that if someone is in a position that they do want to come back to India, they might find solace in the fact that 3 of us have come back. And there is someone like them who has come back and who is actually happy in India. That support this video can provide. Second thing is, again, USA and India, right? Earlier in the previous generation, USA was the pinnacle of everything. People wanted to go there and settle there. We three are probably the examples of this generation who have come back from that American dream. So the American dream is not what it used to be anymore because India is rising really fast. So in 20 years, it might be the Indian dream. Maybe others will come back to India to chase the Indian dream. So you won't want to be late for that, right? That is one more thing to just consider, that the American dream is slowly fading away and we are living that slow fading away. We might be in the middle of it right now. 20 years back, when people look back at it, they will realize this probably. But this video might represent that, I think, the fading of the American dream as conveyed by 3 people who have actually come back to India. And as Rajat said, your personal experiences are the best teachers. So I think that everyone should try going to the US once and then make a decision for themselves. Maybe you really like it there. Maybe you like the culture. As Sreedath was saying, maybe you like the hikes, going, maybe using public transportation, you like it much more and just find a happier way of life over there. So it might work out for you. But for us, luckily everything aligned and it's working out very well. So yeah, my personal thought is that just by watching a 20-30 minute video, you should not take a very major life decision, but just maybe have something in mind as a reference point that people are doing these things and the American dream is not what it used to be anymore, probably.
Okay, we talked a bit about our life during IIT Madras and all. It was amazing. So this is probably for a context of whoever is viewing this conversation. Like, what kind of personality are you in general, or were you as a student? Were you studying all the time, or were you doing other things? Maybe I can start about my personality, how it was. I think it has changed tremendously. But after high school, during undergrad at IITM, I was pretty much, studies was probably the only thing I was doing predominantly. I was not thinking about anything much, not having any grand plans, or not having much foresight, right? Just studying whatever academic thing comes my way. If it's some useless course, yes. If it's a good course, yes. I was taking everything that came my way, studying, trying to get a good GPA. And it worked out, right? That really helped to get into these good institutes for PhD. So I just wanted to briefly discuss about this because some students may relate to it. Because we are not talking things out of thin air. We are talking out of, okay, this is the kind of people who are sitting here and having this conversation. So I consider myself as a unidimensional person for most of my academic life, who was just interested in studying. More than that, maybe who was, I can't say for sure I was so interested in studying. I was afraid of losing marks and losing GPA. So for that reason, I was studying a lot. As soon as it stopped, I became more curious about building organizations and doing something much bigger. So I think I'm more, back then I was more afraid to do things, I guess. And now I am less afraid to do things and less afraid to fail. So that transition happened after this startup journey started. So that's how my personal academic profile was. I'm curious to listen to your part of it.
Yeah, that is a great question because it has been an evolution. For me also, it was pretty much the same. I was completely into studies. I remember an incident. He's laughing.
This part should be in the video. We will not cut it out.
I remember an incident in Insti where I was sitting in CIFA and there was a discussion about startups. And I was sitting in the back seat and I was listening to the conversations, and I was thinking the whole time, how are these students able to manage both acads and startup ideas? I had no intention of building a startup in my Insti days. The thought never even crossed my mind. So I wanted to do research and I went to do my PhD. And fast forward 4 years now, I'm managing a team of around 4 to 5 people, and it's odd that being an introverted person and having to manage a team, that is the evolution that has happened within me. And I try to focus on my strengths, even though it's managing a team. I try to focus on the style of empathetic leadership and try to focus on how people are behaving in situations and how can I properly manage them. So I think it's about believing in your personality and trying to adapt it based on the requirements of the situation. That's what startup has taught me, actually. Not be rigid, not call yourself as a person who is not good at communication, but try to adapt yourself. If you are in a conference, try to network with people. That was also new skill that I learned actually during the startup days. So in terms of my own personality, I believe now it is like a flexible personality. I can't put a name to it because you have to wear so many hats when you are in a startup, especially as a founder. So I consider myself as being able to adapt my personality depending on what the role or the requirement is. So if you are a person or a student in the college who is not good at expressing themselves or who is just into academics, purely focused on studies, you can actually wear different hats in the future. It is not very difficult to do that. You don't need to match the style that is commonly portrayed in cinemas, in TV serials, that you have to be very extroverted, you have to shout, you have to speak a lot. You can have your own style and you can be perfectly fine with it. You can have your own leadership style. So just stick true to your personality and try to stick with your strengths. Don't categorize yourself into buckets that, okay, I'm not a good leader, I'm not a good speaker. There is time to cultivate that skills even in the future after you graduate from IIT. So just try to be open and learn from situations. Try to adapt yourself. So it has been an evolution, and it has been a tremendous journey, I think so. Yeah, Raj, you can speak about it.
Yeah, I was basically a very shy student always. Even in IIT Madras, I never answered too many questions in class. I was very disciplined, always took notes, sat on the first or second bench.
Did you ever answer any question?
No, I don't think so.
Same
ever,
here.
yeah. I never spoke up in class too much. I did spend a lot of time in the library. I really liked going there. I was a very normal student, and like other students, never questioned the status quo. I never questioned whether what I was studying, where will I use it. As long as I'm getting good grades, I was happy because it boosted my ego. I also got a good rank, and seniors were saying that will help me get industry internships, and it's generally good. I never questioned whether what I was learning, whom will it impact, what will it impact. Also really focused on grades and very unidimensional also, I think. Never participated in too many extracurricular activities, cultural festivals. One thing which changed through the startup journey is that whenever I did something, now I'm very serious about what impact it is having. Otherwise, I don't do it. Even in PhD, there are some research questions which you might be working for a very long period of time, but they might not lead to any research. And now I avoid getting into such intellectual exercises just for the fun of it. Everything now should have an impact for me, either in terms of people we are affecting or in terms of revenue which you are generating. Now I've become very laser focused about that. Even in terms of decision making, pretty sure about what needs to be done, because everything should have an impact, otherwise it's not worth it. Now I've just not, I don't want to live the next 10-15 years doing something which is affecting no one, let's say. So that, and this thinking has changed my personality a bit. I've become more attuned with the world, where the world is moving, what the world needs right now. And I think I've become quite good at spotting trends. That is because I'm constantly on the lookout for new things, way things are moving about. And what Rajat was saying, I think that introverted CEOs or introverted founders, for example, Dustin Moskovitz, the CEO of which is that company, Asana, Unicorn. He is in his podcast, he says he's a introverted CEO, but of course the company is huge, and he also practices compassionate leadership. Even that example of a CEO who had a bipolar, yeah, the CEO of Bonobos, I think. So this leadership styles which were existing in media and literature about outspoken, rash, move fast, break things kind of stuff, I don't think that is the only way to go about things. People who are serious thinkers, can understand the situation, can become really big, especially in this era where we are living in. And various personality types can go ahead with that. The only thing you have to be aware of is embracing uncertainty. Like if you're rigid, then I think the scope for growth is limited a bit, because everything is changing so rapidly. We have to, that part of the mindset should be a bit flexible, I think, and I've evolved that, which was lacking in Insti. Very rigid mindset, just behind grades, without thinking what it will lead to or why even I am doing this. But yeah, I think that has kind of evolved me as a person who embraces uncertainty, is on the constant lookout for new things, and does not just chase intellectual stimulation, but chase results, even if they lead to less intellectual stimulation and impact more people. Yeah. How do you guys deal with uncertainty actually? Because we were never taught in Insti life. There was no uncertainty, right?
Yeah.
There was GPA, there was courses. After you do courses, you chill out and then wait for the next semester to start. But as you also must have seen, here everything is evolving. In fact, we have pivoted many times.
Yeah.
So how do you deal with that? Does it make you insecure sometimes as people?
I think personally I am good with long-term uncertainties. Sorry about the background noise. I am personally very comfortable. I mean, not like, I'm personally okay with long-term uncertainties, but short-term certainties like there is a deadline next week to get something done.
This is an uncertainty, yes. Not planned for
Short-term, okay, this is. I know what I have to deliver by next week, or I know this has to be done. I think that makes me worried more, whether that is meaningful or not. Meaning, okay, let's say we have a pitch deadline. So if you really look at what is unsettling me more personally, those things make my mind more occupied, and probably if I get sleepless nights, it's not over long-term things, it's always over these short-term things, and short-term things are almost always certain, right? Like certain meaning like, yeah, that event is there, but I don't really worry about let's say this event is there, let's say we have to pitch in front of someone, if we will get funding or not. the fact that whether funding will happen or not does not make me unsettled, but the fact that we have to deal with that pitch,
So
that makes me more.
let's say, does the thought of pivoting make you uncertain? Let's say the thought of pivoting to some other idea, does that make you uncertain or insecure? Let's say.
Not at all. I'm completely fine with if there is some merit in something better than what we identified yesterday. I don't think there is anything bad about pivoting. So I am very, very comfortable at the thought of idea pivots or changes happening tomorrow. So that I think I can deal with it very easily. What about you, Rajat?
I think I experienced the peak uncertainty during COVID when we were pursuing our PhDs. At that time, the uncertainty was about our family in India. At the same time, completion of PhD. So we wanted to finish our PhD as soon as we can and start our startup. But even for Raj and Sreedath, the timelines were not very clear. For both of them, it was a bit more hazy. And we were not sure when we'll get time to fully focus on our idea. And that used to make me uncertain every single day. I used to wake up and think, okay, when is this going to end? Because the mind was not fully into PhD and neither it was in the startup. So that was the peak, and then the COVID was also happening at the same time. So that was then the phase where I experienced the peak uncertainty, and it was very difficult to deal with it. I don't think there is any solution or any formula that works. You just have to experience it and slowly get better at it. So I am not very comfortable with uncertainty. I like things to be planned. And pivoting also makes me a bit uncertain because I can't imagine the future. Immediately I start, all of these things overwhelm me that, okay, we have to then initiate the idea, build the product, start marketing, and then the whole things come in my mind all at once. So I'm not able to segregate them into buckets quickly. So that's what makes me uncertain a lot. And yeah, I mean, it's a journey which continues to teach me. But I think I've become better at it. I've started to handle uncertain events a lot better and in a very rational manner. I think meditation has helped me to quite some extent, which I discovered during the pandemic. So in college life, as you said, you won't get to experience that because everything is planned and there are people around you who are in the exact same boat. But yeah, uncertainty is something which I'm trying to deal with every single day.
Yeah, I think we can have several conversations like this spanning different topics.
Sure.
It's also good to put out the thought in a way outside of your head, right? Usually we just think about these things. It's also very nice to hear your thoughts. I'm pretty sure a lot of things align, but still when things are in words, it's more, it's very clear.
Start a podcast. We should maybe start a podcast. Usually people who start podcasts are already quite successful, like Nitin Kamath.
Yeah.
Maybe people are more interested to listen to people like us who are in the early stages.
Right. We can.
Oh, there is a monkey over there staring at us.
I think, that monkey is fine. Short term.